So we're now in June of 2017. It's going to be a short update on the Kazan Old German Owl crossbred project. This is the F2 generation, so basically these are the results of the full brothers and sisters of the first initial crosses being bred together. As I think as I explained in an earlier video, I actually had a shortage of cocks from all my projects. So I'm actually only breeding off of one pair of each project this year. I am doing a little bit of creative breeding. I have, in some instances, I have one cock mated to two hens at the same time, which does work to a certain extent. So this is from the first round of actually this pair here, this black splash cock and that mealy hen. This is actually a swap around. This is the father of this blue saddle up here. The mother of the blue saddle is Little One Eye, which was actually the first one I bred. You'll remember the little blue chick pied with the one single eye because she was missing one eye due to an early infection. So I'm pretty sure this blue bar is a cock. So basically a good medium bird. He's a little bit of a spook, so I've kind of got him in a cage. If I open that door, he wants to bolt. Seems to fly pretty well. Short grouse legs. He does drag his wings. You can see the saddle marking is actually coming out here in the second generation. And I think this is a cock. I didn't get a neck frill or crest out of this bird, but a little bit of a spook here. Let's hang on the side of the cage. Pearl-eyed. You might remember the first generation were all orange-eyed from the owl background, but can't get him to stand too still here for us. But I actually really like this young cockbird. I'm going to retain him for breeding. I'm going to bring the clutchmate out next, who I am not quite as happy with, but I think this cock, even though it is kind of questionable if he carries a crest or carries a neck frill, I will probably use him for breeding. He does drag his wings most of the time. 12 tail feather tail. When he actually poses up a little bit, he actually looks a bit like a Taganrog. He does carry the tail very broadly and does lift it up a bit, but I think really a nice step in the right direction. I think with this one, I think this one has some value, and I really do like this bird. I do like the head structure and the beak structure, and we've got the pearl eyes back, and the markings are getting there. Would really like to make some saddles. I did even get out of the F2 on the Uzbek Old German Owl crosses. I did actually get also a saddled youngster that I had lost earlier in the year, but they're throwing some saddles, and I haven't had much luck with breeding them so far yet because I've been trusting them to raise their own young to see how they do, which they have not done well on the Uzbek Owl cross going into the F2 generation. But you know, so needless to say, those youngsters have not made it out of the nest, but they've been pretty promising so far. So I'm going to bring the clutchmate up of this young cock. Anyway, kind of another look at him. I do have his wings tucked down the way they should, but you can see he's got a pretty broad tail there. He is saddle marked. Really nice head structure on this bird. I wish I would have gotten some bull eyes and totally white head on this bird, or a snip marking, but definitely a step in the right direction. No neck frill, but a really nicely headed bird. Very nice type, but definitely a step in the right direction. And as I said, I think this is a young cock. He is from the first round. So he is from the Black Splash and Little One Eye. So Little One Eye is a blue check splash. He is a blue bar. which is not surprising. You might remember the original old German owl hen. The original parents on that was a red check Kazan cock and a blue bar saddle German owl hen. So there's the bars coming back, simple recessive. Or actually, the bars are actually the wild type, but they are recessive to your checkers. So here is the clutch mate of the last bird. He's also a blue bar. Looks like he has a sooty gene. Kind of a sooty blue bar pied. Doesn't quite have the broadness of the tail. Really does not drop the wings. I think this one is also a cock. So we'll look at him in the pen. So he's kind of more reminiscent of the first generation cross. He's got was just hanging on the side of the cage, so he's got his flight feathers all misarranged, but really not, in my opinion, really not what I want. Needless to say, I will not breed off of this bird. And this is kind of the thing when you start crossing back. You just start getting a lot of variation, and you start getting variances of type back to the original parental breeds. So this is the first round off of the second mating. We have 13 tail feathers, ash red pied, basically a saddle, splashed, kind of marked like the father. And you'll notice we have the neck frill showing up in this bird. This bird has definitely progressed, did not get the crest, short grouse legs, but we have a slight frill starting to develop. This frill, as he gets older, should fill in a lot better. Good tail, broad tail, drags his wings most of the time. So there's this little guy. Wings are down, tail is a little bit up, tail is broad, a little bit of a neck frill, grouse legs, and it is a cockbird. He's ash red with some black ticking, which is exactly what I needed at this point, was a good young cockbird. So very happy with this one. As I said, this is from the first clutch from this particular mating, but it is actually the second round for the cockbird. I went through and broke the first pair up, put them on a second hen. They've got two more youngsters. I will actually break them up again and give him another hen. I may give him two hens this time. I've got some other, as I mentioned earlier, I have some other pairs that I am breeding, one cock to two hens at the same time in individual cages, pretty roomy individual cages, and they'll do just fine doing that. Some cocks will not do that, but most of them will. Most of them will actually readily take two hens, and they will not only fill the eggs on both hens, they'll actually help raise the youngsters and do it. I've got some rollers doing that this year, some really valuable cockbirds that I'm working with. So this is actually, this little ash red is actually pretty close to what I want. Got everything with the exception of a shell crest on this side of the project. So pretty happy with this one. This one will be a valuable bird. I'm going to keep this one in the blue bar saddle I showed earlier, and they will certainly go in the breeding pen for later on. If I'm lucky, maybe later in the year, I will get some offspring from this bird, and hopefully there'll be some half-sisters or a sister that will be very, very suitable, and hopefully have either the crest or the neck frill or something like that, and be able to progress further on. So until next time, thanks for watching.